What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the second album by Avril Lavigne. Basically, this album is called Under My Skin, and it came out in the spring of 2004. Now, this is the follow-up to Avril Lavigne's 2002 album Let Go, which was kind of a more punk rock and kind of punk commercial pop type feel about it, with songs like Skater Boy and Losing Grip and some of those type moments. But yeah, Avril was kind of in between. She was kind of like a darker tinge Kelly Clarkson or something like that. A little bit of Pink in there, a little bit of Kelly Clarkson, some of those type folks. But she did have commercial appeal. And this is one that really masterfully kind of has the elements of being commercial and pop, but also very dark and rock oriented as well, and gothic, more importantly. That's just kind of the concept. This is pretty much like a gothic classic album, I would definitely say. I think this album outdoes Let Go. It may not have the sheer commercial. I feel like the singles were probably more successful on Let Go, but I do feel like this is the better album. These are just the better songs on here. It doesn't have like the sheer bite. It doesn't have the sheer bite of songs like Complicated and Skater Boy and I'm With You and Losing Grip in some cases, but I would have to say the songs are just better this time. And I like the elements of what Avril Lavigne did. It's not really a direct sequel to Let Go. There's just some different kind of edges towards it, where Avril Lavigne's kind of pitch this time deals with more post grunge. So this is definitely something that is kind of like a female version of the stuff that you'd expect from like Nickelback and some of those type folks, like Puddle of Mudd and some of them. It really, I mean, it doesn't full blown embrace it, but it does have like a kind of gothic kind of commercial. Whereas basically, yeah, I would say it's like a more gothic version of some of the stuff that you would hear from post grunge. And considering that there weren't too many gothic bands doing post grunge, this is a really good element and it works extremely well. Has a taste of Evanescence in here, so there are some kind of haunting piano ballads. I like that. It's really awesome that Avril Lavigne has some of these particular type moments because they're pretty excellent. So this is pretty much one of the most haunting albums out of 2004. I would definitely say it's just an overall excellent one. It's just a real tour de force in terms of that. Definitely, I think it, like I said, it outstrips kind of Let Go in a lot of ways, and the singles are pretty awesome too. I definitely say it's surprising that some of these, apart from like My Happy Ending, just didn't chart a lot higher, because it felt like some of these kind of got like kind of mid-pace, kind of mid-success about it. I think this is an album that went like triple platinum or 4 times platinum, something like that. But I would have to say it's just kind of surprising that this album didn't connect more, especially over the years. This has some good gems on here that are worth recollecting and some of that type of stuff to talk about. So that's kind of the thing. But yeah, I would have to say I'm going to go ahead and talk about the singles. So there are 5 of them, so there's as many as there were on Let Go, but these, like I was saying, kind of have varying degrees of success. I mean, they all did good, but they just didn't do the sheer excellence of the first album. But they are, I do feel like a lot of these are probably better, or at least I feel like a lot of these probably could wind up being better. So the first single is Don't Tell Me. This is kind of like the pseudo sequel to Complicated, just a little bit more hazy and dark. This is kind of a hazy early fall kind of groove. It's a makeshift bop, and it's kind of a woozy hangout song, I would definitely say, and it's a catchy single. This one just kind of has the same elements as Complicated. It's just a little bit more creepy and a little bit more hazy as far as that kind of goes, but it is the same sort of makeshift kind of bop. It's a good song to start with off this album. It's a good song to start with from this album from Avril Lavigne. I would definitely kind of say it's just kind of commercial, kind of haze, just in like an autumn and gothic kind of oriented type feel about it. It's a good song to kind of have that's not quite a sheer kind of headbanger and get crunk kind of song, but it just kind of has that appeal of just being like a mid-car bop or residential type bop as far as that's concerned, just kind of in a more makeshift sense. It's late September, October type feels, November type feels, where it's kind of warm out, but still those kind of grooves. This very catchy chorus. This is another one. Avril really cranked out some catchy choruses on here. She had a bag of tricks with some of these hooks. They just worked extremely well. So this is just an overall effectual one. Great melodies on here. I would say My Happy Ending is the second single. This is like a haunting kind of gothic pop type song. It's Workaday, and it feels like some gothic malaise, and it's just kind of a breakthrough cut. This is the most successful song off the album. I would have to say it's really catchy. It's just it's a highlight of a song to kind of refer back to from Avril Lavigne. This is definitely one that tore up the mid 2000s. It's kind of one of those just earworm kind of songs that just happened to be to get like that was just being cranked out of cars and cranked on the radio and stuff. I feel like nowadays, apart from like Complicated and apart from maybe Skater Boy, this is probably one of the ones that gets played the most. I mean, it didn't hit #1, but it was pretty successful. This was the album seller for Under My Skin, I would definitely kind of say. It's just very melodic and kind of hooky and that type of stuff. It's just kind of, I really like the feel of this one. It's just kind of like, it's kind of like Evanescence, but it just does it in a more commercial type bite towards it, where it's very much a pop song, but it's gothic pop, I would say. So this is kind of the thing of getting that. This is original at the time. There just weren't folks apart from Amy Lee who were really doing this back in 2004, 2003, 2005 and stuff. So this is kind of original as far as this kind of goes, but there weren't as many singles that hit the sheer quality of this. This was a top 10 single, but this is the most successful one out of all 5 of the singles on here. It's just good. Nobody's Home was the 3rd single. This is definitely a post-grunge cut. It's grim, but it's kind of a snappy song, I would definitely say. It's heartfelt. It's a heartfelt and connecting kind of gem. I definitely feel like this is one where Avril kind of tugs at your emotions and kind of has a good connection. This is one that she kind of tugs at your heart and has a good connection that she establishes with this song. So it's a pretty overall nice one as far as that kind of goes. It's just some of that, or most of the time post-grunge songs are just kind of more wailing and just kind of relationship woes. But this is actually one that has like a good connection as far as that kind of goes. But I would look after it just being able to say that this is a pretty snappy song. So I like the pace, because I would be surprised that this is the type of song that you would feel like would be a real down tempo and just kind of moaning kind of piano ballad that just kind of has like some of those typical kind of church piano type keys on there or something like that. But this actually is kind of a snappy kind of car bubbler just to kind of cruise around to, and just have that standard malaise on your mind, just kind of in a grim kind of attitude, or just kind of frustrated kind of attitude. Some of that stuff that Nickelback and like some of that stuff the Nickelback and Stain kind of doing, some of those type folks as far as that kind of goes. This is an easy one. It's pretty interesting how well Avril Lavigne took to post-grunge styles like water. I just would have to say it's a pretty interesting one as to how that happened. So it's a good highlight. Didn't really chart that heavily, but it is a good bop, I would say. He Wasn't is the 4th single, and this is one that only charted in Europe and internationally and that type of stuff. This is very much a Pink and Joan Jett like song. I feel like this is kind of a rock boiler. This is very much like the song that's similar to Skater Boy, I would have to say. It's a rock boiler, like I was saying. It's a snappy kind of rave energy rager, I would definitely say, and it's a club bop. This is definitely one for stepping out, going to karaoke, some of that type of stuff. This one has more ravenous energy. Like most of the three singles previous to this that I talked about were all kind of ones that had a lot more gloomy and kind of more gothic and emo type pitch as far as that kind of went. Just more moody and that type of stuff. But this is one where the energy is kind of less, the emotions are less on your sleeve and kind of more just raging, kind of get crunk a little bit as far as that kind of goes. Avril needs some of these. Like this is the type of song that I would have said that Avril needed on Let Go. It's not like that's a bad album, but just to kind of say it just was kind of malaise in a lot of ways. That album didn't have as many up-tempo ones apart from Skater Boy. This is a good example of like a bop that can be played in a nightclub or something like that, or even a dance club, I would kind of say. Is this a good pitch for Avril? So, and then Fall to Pieces is the 5th single. This is another one that's kind of an in-betweener. This is post-grunge malaise, and I feel like this is an in-between song where it's kind of a little bit of Nobody's Home, but it's also a little bit of Don't Tell Me. It has the same kind of pace and kind of malaise, kind of makeshift type, workaday type feel of Don't Tell Me, but it is kind of more of like a post-grunge production on there, I would say. It's workaday, but it's kind of a soul and emo commercial hit, definitely. So this is one that had some commercial appeal about it, but it is kind of moody and that sort of emo pitch of being more Hot Topic and those type vibes as far as that kind of goes. It's real nice, just a real nice soul in one for that sort of atmosphere. Just kind of, and this is another one that's not quite as glum. I mean, it's moody, but it's just not quite as like, grim as like the other singles that have kind of been. Most, like all 4 of the previous singles kind of have Avril in a more kind of like, I don't want all 4 of the previous singles kind of have Avril in a more ornery kind of mood, but this is one where she's a little bit more homely and a little bit more affectionate, I would have to say. So it's kind of the concept about getting that. It's a good concept, but I look after it. It's kind of the situation. So yeah, to talk about the songs I recommend on here. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that this album's going to get a pretty high score. I mean, there's only one song out of 12. That should be a hint as to what I'm going to score this album. There's only one song out of 12 that I didn't recommend, and that would just be That would just be How Does It Feel. So to talk about, the only song I don't recommend is How Does It Feel, and I'll talk about why I don't recommend that one. So How Does It Feel? How Does It Feel is a song I don't recommend just because Avril's really glum on this song, and I feel like the tempo and this kind of the sluggish kind of mood of this particular and the pitch of this song just don't really suit the vibes that probably it needed to. Like this is one where it just feels a lot more morose than some of the rest of it, and it just is kind of one that the energy is just more sluggish than probably the pace of what should have happened. Like I feel like on songs like Slipped Away and Together and Forgotten, this actually works out extremely much more better. But this one just felt like a really kind of more despondent kind of song. I just didn't vibe with this much. That's kind of the thing. But so to talk about some of the songs I do recommend, like I do feel like I feel like a good highlight on here is Forgotten. This is a song of fury. This is kind of an extreme bickering kind of jam. I would definitely say it's a good venting song, and I feel like the aesthetic is really nice. This is one where Avril's kind of really kind of angry or at least brooding on the song. And I like the kind of stomping around kind of fury that this song kind of has. Just an overall nice bop, I would say. One of the best songs on this album, though, I feel like is one of the best songs on this album, though, that I definitely feel like is Slipped Away. This has a very kind of chilling vibe about it. It's a great execution that it has, and it's one of the album's best songs. It just has a real creeping kind of piano beat, very similar to Evanescence, just that kind of haunting and just kind of really kind of distorted kind of vibe that just works as like a very chilling, perfect song for the autumn, I would definitely say, and just kind of perfect song for the autumn, I would say, and it just has an overall kind of chilling vibe. Just great for colder weather and that type of stuff, I would definitely say. Another song that's a good highlight that's similar to Slipped Away, just in terms of the haunting feel of it, is Together. This has a very chilling piano beat. This is like grim Evanescence like feels about it, and Avril gives the song some real good commercial appeal. Some of these are really kind of surprising just because she didn't have songs like this on Let Go. I would definitely say that this kind of new pitch that she had, I mean, Avril learned some new tricks on here, like post grunge and kind of more gothic pop and some of that type of stuff, just kind of up the ante a little bit, and it had some new styles that kind of happened. Some of these Evanescence type vibes really worked extremely well, I would have to say. So these are just some new pitches that work. These are definitely some ones that work. Who Knows is another nice one. That Who Knows is kind of another similar song to Don't Tell Me and Fall to Pieces, those two singles. It's kind of some emo makeshift haze, I would definitely say. It's a simple kind of hop and bop type tune, but it has a grim feel, but it's still kind of outgoing. So these are just some outgoing kind of ones that just kind of have more residential and just kind of traverse type things in mind. Doesn't necessarily have to be at the house, but just kind of this standard kind of easy living, just daily living in more of like a gothic and emo sense. There's just some good ones for like some autumn haze as far as that kind of goes. I definitely like these. Production and the instrumentation on Who Knows is just very similar to Don't Tell Me and Fall to Pieces. That's another one if you like both those singles. And I would say Take Me Away. Take Me Away is some post-grunge haze. This is a workaday kind of gloomy day commute kind of bop, and this is a good commerce cut. I would definitely kind of say it's some blue collar kind of gothic tinge type atmosphere about it. So it's just kind of more in the car, just got done with things, responsibilities kind of getting tied up kind of song. It's definitely kind of more of like a makeshift kind of one, I would definitely say, and I do like the concept of some of these. There are a few makeshift songs on here. I feel like Avril Lavigne kind of let her hair down more on this album, which is pretty awesome, but there is a good mixture of kind of both. I feel like songs like Nobody's Home and Who Knows and Take Me Away and probably Don't Tell Me are just some good examples of some of that standard makeshift kind of malaise that you get on here. So it's just a good concept where it's just there's a good composition about this album. There's just a lot of good stuff on here that has a lot of that. But another highlight that's similar to He Wasn't is Freak Out. So another nice one on here is Freak Out. This one's pretty similar to He Wasn't. Same kind of stepping out type vibe. Both of these are good for a night out or an evening out or something like that. I mean, even though Freak Out is kind of more afternoon bound, I feel like these are both kind of ones with some good riffs and good kind of romping kind of feels about it. This one in particular, Freak Out, is a romping song. It's a good residential kind of bop, and it's good for a typical evening. It's a typical evening bop. It's got some good riffs on here, I would definitely say. And the concept about this song is just kind of the fact that it's just kind of more of like a neighborhood kind of jam, I would definitely say. Just kind of more kicking it locally, but just kind of having the concept of just having some good vibes. It's got a good pitch towards it, I would definitely say. It's pretty similar to Skater Boy off of Let Go, and it's also similar to He Wasn't off this album. These are both kind of more jivey, kind of almost nightclub. I would say that Freak Out could kind of be one for like maybe not so much like the nightclub, but just kind of the activities that are prior to that. I would definitely say it's got that same kind of pitch. It's just good to kind of get Avril Lavigne letting her hair down more, because these are some good songs to kind of get that. I mean, most of the time, the gloomy kind of malaise is kind of where you'll catch her, just some like commercial emo type malaise as far as that goes. But this is a good example of some ones that kind of have some extra vibes about it that just work pretty well. So in terms of what I'm going to score this album, I'm going to give this album a 10 out of 10. Me liking 11 out of 12 songs on here, where the only real song I didn't appreciate was just How Does It Feel. There's just a number of moments on here that work extremely well. You've got your commercial type moments like Don't Tell Me and Fall to Pieces. You've got like makeshift songs on here like Take Me Away. You've got some Evanescence kind of similar somber songs like Slipped Away and Together and some of those type moments. And there's just a lot of overall good pitches on here as far as that kind of goes. There's some good stuff as far as that kind of. I really like. I appreciate the new styles that were kind of on here. I felt like Avril Lavigne fits pretty damn well with post grunge, which is an excellent kind of vibe. Definitely like that concept as far as getting that, and it was just interesting to be able to see that. Just because it was different from Let Go, where I felt like Let Go was kind of gothic and moody, but it was kind of more punk. Also, it had a lot of Blink 182 and kind of more good Charlotte vibes, just in terms of how some of that concept kind of went. But this one is more kind of gloomy post grunge. So it's interesting that Avril took post grunge, put a gothic spin on it, and connected with it well, and then kept like the commercial kind of appeal songs like Complicated with songs on this album like Don't Tell Me and Fall to Pieces, and just was able to do it extremely well. So yeah, the album gets a 10. The social score, I'm going to go ahead and give a 10 out of 10 also, just because the connection of it. There are many moments on here. You do have your social moments like Freak Out and He Wasn't. You've got some singles on here just for kind of more just bops around the residential neighborhood like Don't Tell Me, Fall to Pieces, Who Knows, some of those type moments. Some makeshift kind of car moments like Take Me Away. And I would just have to overall kind of say there's just a lot of good moments on here. It's just kind of the whole concept about it is just a pretty good packaged album for 12 songs. Just being able to nail it that many times, it should be said, is something. This is definitely one of the defining gothic albums of the 2000s, I would definitely say. And it's pretty much a good pop album, too. I mean, I look after it. Yeah, Avril didn't chart as heavily as she did on Let Go, but she did have a lot of commercial appeal, and it's just kind of, she's just a good alternative kind of commercial woman. She's just a good alternative commercial chick, where if you like Kelly Clarkson but you want a little bit more brooding, and you like Amy Lee but you want something a little bit more commercial, this is a good example of a good avenue to kind of turn to. This is Hot Topic bound. This is just kind of alternative bound and that does stuff, but it does it in a sense where you can still hear it on the radio, which is appreciable. So yeah, 10 social. In terms of the future, like Avril Lavigne dropped an album in 2022, which I reviewed, which is called Love Sucks. And then there's a deluxe edition, which I'm going to get to at some stage, but we're going to get to some more of these Avril Lavigne albums. But yeah, this is definitely, I would have to say easily that this is one of Avril Lavigne's best.